Hey record nerds, check out the next level audiophile furniture at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop makes beautiful record furniture. I personally have a Sidetracked Workshop double sidekick in my house, and it's not only gorgeous, but incredibly practical. Check them out for yourself at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Don't keep your records in crates, and don't trust that feeble IKEA furniture. Give your vinyl the respect it deserves with furniture from sidetrackedworkshop.com. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hello everyone, it's Nate. Welcome to episode 491 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a really very funny episode today. One of the rare times that the artist, the interviewee, was also in Sydney. We were able to be in the same physical location. We had a great time. And I, of course, am speaking of the absolute Australian dead set legend, Tex Perkins. Now, you may know Tex from his work with The Cruel Sea. You may know him from The Beasts of Bourbon. You may know him from Thug or a myriad of other bands and projects he's had over the years. But today, Tex is going to take us through his legendary career, from re-engaging with Cruel Sea and their upcoming shows to talking about some wild ARIA Award nights. He answers the question, did he stab someone with an ARIA Award? Well, you're going to have to listen in to find out. Tex talks about the record label trials, backing the infamous legendary Stardust Cowboy. We discuss Tex's atrocious habits with vinyl records, reissuing his works on vinyl, and a heck of a lot more. Now, Tex has been very busy. Recently, the Beasts released the album Ultimo, which you can grab a vinyl copy of at thebeasts.bandcamp.com. And The Cruel Sea has also kicked into high gear with the new LP Straight Into the Sun. They've done the first vinyl pressing of their landmark album, The Honeymoon Is Over, and there's a theater tour of Australia starting in May. So Google them up to find tickets and records, or head over to Instagram.com/thecruelseaofficial or facetofacetouring.com.au and grab some tickets for that upcoming theater tour. And hey, there is an extended version of this interview available only to Patreon legends, folks who support the show. That's available at patreon.com/vinylguide. As I said, it's an extended version of this interview. It's commercial free, it's high resolution, and you help support this show. Those of you who are supporting the Vinyl Guide at patreon.com/vinylguide, well, you are in top tier of my books because you guys help me afford a few tacos every month, and that is certainly appreciated. Those of you who enjoy the show and want to help support it, help keep it going, just sign up over at patreon.com/vinylguide, and we thank you in advance for your support. Alrighty, enough of my jibber jabber. Let me turn on my recorder and let's have a conversation with Australian legend, Mr. Tex Perkins.
You good?
Yeah, I think we're doing well. All right. Tex Perkins.
Nate.
Thanks for taking some time, man.
Oh, thanks for waiting. In the middle of a rehearsal, and going through ancient, material.
Yeah.
And so it's a magical. It's like a personal karaoke kind of situation. Like it's the Cruel Sea, we've the next run of gigs I wanted to. We're presenting new songs, a new album, but also wanted to pluck out deep cuts, if so to speak, songs that we haven't played in 30 years, and they were part of our history, and they were good songs, but they kind of got left by the wayside of the.
So you're clearing the cobwebs off, and
they just never got they were good songs, but there was other songs dominated a set list, you know what I mean? Oh, I got to play that one. Oh, it'd be great to play that one, but you can't play all night, sort of thing. And you got to prioritize. But I've deliberately, pointed out, let's do that one. We haven't done that one. I've prepared the band. I've gave them the list weeks ago, and fortunately, I've had the luxury of just walking in on. And they've done all the kind of the fiddly preparation.
Yeah.
And I've just walked, like, how about we try Cry For Me? And they go, boom, start up, and it's like, whew. And then it was just another one, and then we were just whipping through them. It was just, it felt like sort of like whatever
right on.
It was like a karaoke machine.
Yeah.
It was like, I feel like singing My Way. Well, bang, there it is.
It'd be like James Brown. Find them $50 if they don't know it.
But yeah, it's a
So when you're going,
it's a lovely feeling, like visiting songs that you haven't played in a long time, but they're good songs.
Yeah.
And as I say, they've just sort of got lost in the hierarchy of priorities of songs that you sort of perform, over the years. And,
yeah. So when you're going through material, songs maybe you haven't sung or even really revisited in a decade or more. Do you feel the same emotions? Do you recall where you were at when you wrote them?
No, more sometimes, but more I get a fresh perspective on the song itself, and on objectivity, and I can. 'Cause, when you're in the thick of it, you create something, and then it's there, and you present it, and you can't judge it because you're right in the middle of it. You actually you think something's good, but you don't really know, and if it connects with, and that's another thing when you're sort of in the when you get sucked into the having to sell a record and make an appealable, the response of how many. In the old days, it was whether you got radio play and how many CDs you sold. So that was how you judged. Though you were forced to assess your own sort of work, whether it reached people, whether it connected, and whether it got played, and whether people, that's sort of, so it's not as the creator, you don't get a perspective on it for like 20 years that you can just sort of go. You remove yourself and judge it as, you're not, because you're judging yourself all through that early process. You're the one being judged, not the song. So, so like years, it takes decades before I can, go, oh, that is a good song. Like I can remove myself from it and see it objectively and go, all right, yeah. Actually, it was pretty good.
Do you have much material that you listen to and you're like, that doesn't reflect me anymore?
Oh, there's some stuff that never represented me. Look. I guess like some songs, you better be. Some songs are like spells and sort of and psychological kind of premonitions or predictions or like I'll often write songs just sort of instinctively,
right?
And I'll be more and off reacting to the mood of the music, my collaborator, and I'll write something, just sort of instinctively writing a song, but not necessarily drawing from my own experience.
Right.
And then 10 years later, it's like, oh fuck, this is what that song's about.
Okay.
And it'll be, oh fuck, oh god, did I fucking manifest this just by?
Yeah.
So you kind of got to be careful. So it's the shit you write, like even if it's not applicable.
Yeah.
Like also for another song, particularly a song of mine, the Beasts recorded called "Hard for You," and it's an absolute sort of rage of revenge, and it sounds like someone just absolutely, with seething resentment and hurt, and you fuck me, I'm going to fuck you. But I've never felt that way. I've never I wasn't drawing from personal experience. But I guess I kind of was, you know, I didn't consciously go, I'm writing about that, what happened to me, and you know, I got bullied when I was a kid, or that cunt did rip me off, or it was again an instinctive sort of. It was really written the night before a session, you know, like Spencer had booked. Well, it was first recorded with the Butcher Shop, which began life as when Kid Congo Powers was in town touring with the Bad Seeds. He was an old friend of Spencer's. When the Gun Club toured Australia, I don't know whether you know, in '83, they didn't bring their drummer and guitar player.
Just Congo and Jeffrey Lee
It
Pierce.
was Jeffrey, Kid, and Patricia.
Oh, Morrison. Okay.
So it was Jeffrey and the other guys pretty much until that tour, and they quit at the airport. Jeffrey came to Australia anyway, immediately called Kid and said, and come over, and Patricia also. I think it was all very much overlapping. Anyway, the point is, they needed a backing band, and Spencer and Billy Palmer from the Johnnies stepped in and played in the Gun Club for that tour. And so Kid and Spencer and Jeffrey became friends. And so anyway, years later, when Kid was in Australia, Spencer and Kid, we should record something. Let's get Tex, and we'll get Billy, of course, and blah, blah. And I think we were using as like the graveyard shift of a Bad Seeds mixing session.
Oh, okay.
Because Tony Cohen was engineering. But anyway, I had to come up with a song. And I wrote Hard For You and two other songs sort of the night before this session.
Almost channeling a character?
I guess so. But not like a character of any. It was more. If it was a character, I'd probably put more details in it, and paint a sort of noir kind of picture, But no, I think it was a sheer sort of revenge. Yeah, that was a very simple, emotional, an absolute rage.
Okay.
And the idea of yelling the word hard was sort of essential. It was key to the the nature of the song.
Right. But you're not an angry guy unless you're provoked.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But there's a lot of provocation.
Okay. So yes or no, this is a question. Did you stab someone with an ARIA award?
Is that the legend?
That is the legend.
Oh, that's an awesome legend.
Yes.
Well, they're very pointy.
I know. They're a very effective weapon if employed that way.
Who did I stab?
As I understand it, some drunk guy that was, I think, screwing around with or pushing around your wife or something like that. As I understand, someone just being a pest.
No, he was full on. But no, I didn't stab him with an ARIA. That would have been awesome.
Okay.
Because literally they are like really deadly weapons. They're incredibly heavy and sharp.
Right.
Like a foot and a half long,
It's a shard of...
It's a heavy and really... And the point, the end is... The new ones are incredibly pointy, sharp, and ow! It's like, ow. Now, what happened is, they used to give you awards, literally give you the award on the night.
On the night, okay.
And
so this is the night of the ARIAs. And for everyone listening, ARIAs
Australian Recording Industry Awards.
Right. Okay. So in America, it's like the RIAA. It's almost
it's like the Grammys, man.
Right, yeah.
It's the fucking Grammy.
Right. Yeah.
It's the Dingo Grammys. And anyway, we get the Cruel Sea, the band that I was in, won a bunch of them. I think we won 5. And anyway, I was carrying 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to an after party, and I think I was quite lubricated, and I think it was the 90s. I might have taken an ecstasy,
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I remember doing, I was talking to someone, and they said, look at, you reckon that'd stick in there? And yeah, let's try it. And boom, and I stuck this
right through the
drywall. It was this sort of shitty sort of timber, sort of ply kind of wall. It wasn't, and so it just stuck there in the wall.
Okay.
And we thought, that's awesome. And it even had a light above it and kind of cast a shadow.
Yeah.
And so it was
very arty.
Yeah, we sort of gathered around and laughed for about it. And so I still had another one. And I can't remember what happened. And I was fucking,
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty cruisy, pretty high and cruisy. And I think I'm, No. I think I might have just put it down while I was talking to somebody, and then the
altercation.
Then the altercation happened, and then I never came back for either. My girlfriend and I left quickly after the scene. It was like a scene from Scarface. You know those nightclub scenes where somebody brings out a gun. There's a gunfight, and people are flying everywhere, and and there's sort of disco lights going on.
Yeah.
People jumping out of the way of flying bullets. It was like that in Blood.
Yeah.
There was blood. I whacked this guy, and there was broken glass, and I was bleeding, and then then it was like, I think it might be time to go, darling.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here before the cops come. Yeah.
There was various people. Mm-hmm. Do you know who Molly Meldrum is?
Yeah.
He was one of the people. That I was really giving it to this guy.
Okay, all right.
I was probably spent a little too much time punishing him than was necessary. I was a little
to drive your point home.
I was a little upset of how he had treated my girlfriend, and I know there is a special sort of instinct that that gets switched on. When
I'd see red. I'm not sure.
When family's involved, you sort of go and then oh fucking hell, shit.
Didn't know I had that beast in me.
Yeah, you become this other person, and then it's like, oh fuck, settle down, okay. When your wife or your girlfriend or the one you love or the mother of your children or your children, fucking hell. That'd be a far worse situation.
So your fists were the weapon, not the ARIA.
No, my weapon was the glass I had in my hand.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I think whatever I was drinking, I hit him with that first. And,
okay.
And that's where
okay.
That's where it did more damage to me than him, really. And then it was blood. But no, stabbing him with an ARIA would have been cool. But I wouldn't be sitting here today, I don't think. I'd be still in jail. You'd be doing this
over the phone.
No, behind a glass screen.
Oh, you'd probably be out by now. All right, so
it was a long time ago.
So a lot of what we talk about on this podcast are records, collectibles, things like that. Are you a bit of a record nerd? Do you have a stack of records at home? Do you listen to records?
I'm terrible with vinyl. I've been known to be. Yeah, I know. You know John Foy?
I know John Foy very well.
Yeah, I lived when I was 17. When I was very fortunate. Oh, this is a great way to answer this question. When I was 17, that was when I moved to Sydney, and I had a band called the Dum Dums, and I was meeting people, and it was actually it was the first golden era of my life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd moved from Brisbane, this shithole fucking, terrible. Mm-hmm. Had a slightly traumatic but mainly boring childhood. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I moved to Sydney, and it's just awesome, and I'm in a band, and I'm meeting all these great people and seeing all these great bands, and yeah, meeting lots of great people. And I can't remember how I met him. He must have come and seen my band, or accidentally.
I think he
seen
lived
my
next
band.
door to Jules Normington.
See, that's what I'm. Yeah. That's where I'm going.
Oh, okay.
I first met Jules Normington.
Okay.
I can't remember where. He must have been at one of my gigs. Mm-hmm. I didn't meet him through the shop, because he was Phantom Records. Mm-hmm. was that's for everyone listening. Jules Normington, a pivotal figure, one of the top 10 pivotal figures of Australian alternative music in the 70s and into the 80s, being
tastemaker,
the founder of sorry,
a tastemaker almost.
Well, yeah, there was Phantom Records, the shop, and then there was Phantom Records, the label, and also Jules was very tight with Radio Birdman, and so I'm not sure what role he played at that point, but anyway, Jules Normington allowed me to live in his back room, rent free. I just had to do his dishes.
Okay,
which was a pretty good deal. Cleaning up one.
Depends how much he ate.
Cleaning up one fairly, sensible man's kitchen. Mm-hmm. I wasn't his butler,
right.
but I had to do the dishes, and it was a very good deal. So I lived with Jules, and I had access to his lounge room, and one wall was just this packed with singles and albums, and I worked my way through that, and he mainly, his stronghold, and actually I think the most of it was 60s punk, and it was like all those Nuggets albums,
kind of garage rock, and
but all those Nuggets albums, the Nuggets albums and Pebbles.
Yep.
He had all those singles, those original singles of all those, obscure, 60s psychedelic punk bands and all that stuff. He had all theirs in first pressings and all that stuff. Like Precious, this is, the first pressing of the Seeds, Pushing Too Hard. Oh, fucking hell, and all stuff like that. So I just had this absolute fucking, Garden of Eden of independent rock from the mainly 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. And so I would just sit in there, and God bless him, he was cool with that, and he'd be elsewhere, and I'd just be going through his records, and and occasionally he would sit me down and go, "You should listen to this one," but mainly I'd just be going, "What's this one?"
This is pretty.
but just got discovering so much, and just that's that's the greatest experience I've had with really great collectible records.
Were you gentle with them, or did you?
Well, that's
okay.
That's the next part of the story. I thought I was, but then I met John Foy, and I handled his records in front of him. And like the way I'd been handling records over at Jules when he wasn't there,
right?
It was not as if I was disrespectful, but I wasn't going. And that's what John expected.
Yeah.
If there was a thumbprint at the corner of the edge, he'd be upset about it and tell me about it and that's a blah 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 blah. But so he was a lot more pedantic and anal.
Yeah.
But Jules had just this endless, stream of. Look, they're all and like Jules' stuff was kind of. I think it was more kind of collectible because it was old and first pressings, and they were kind of scratched up anyway. They were kind of
right.
So it wasn't like you were playing, or you were worried about a pop.
Right.
A lot of these were so like it's part of the sound.
Yeah, there were 300 of these things made in 1962. You're lucky to just have one, let alone a mint-shaped one, right?
Yeah, so the cleanliness wasn't important to him either.
Right.
It was just long as there wasn't some terrible,
gash or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But like things like dust and hair. He wasn't sort of out there polishing it. I'm just going to stay at home polishing my records. He wasn't one of those guys.
Believe me, that's a good weekend.
You're one of those guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like, what are we going to do? Oh, there's nothing better than just, yeah.
Oh yes. Spending the weekend alone polishing my records.
Oh yeah. Get some sushi.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, baby. Don't come over. I'm polishing my records.
Yeah. I need my alone time with my records here. Very meditative. So a lot of your material has been scattered on so many different record labels. Do you care if your music is available on vinyl?
Oh yeah. Well, that's the way we think these days. It's hard to because for instance with the Beasts of Bourbon, we own our first 3 albums.
The ones that were on Red Eye?
Yeah.
Okay.
Axeman's Jazz, Sour Mash, and Black Milk, we own them, and so we have licensed them out periodically to people. That's thanks to John Foy for that. It wasn't too hard, but he got ownership back from us. Well, not that we ever actually. We sort of, they were self-financed, so
right.
we always kind of did own them, but there was relationships with record companies. But by the time the Beasts of Bourbon made the Low Road album, that was paid for by Polydor Records, so they kind of still own that record. And and we were just signing fucking. Everyone was signing shit. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, all right, you own this forever. Oh, okay. I didn't know that, but okay. But
you guys had one on Albert's too.
Yeah. Little Animals. That was a weird.
That's one of the last releases on Albert's. The last original release.
Yeah, we killed Albert's.
Yeah, Albert's dead because of it. With an ARIA.
It was their last chance, and they blew it on us. Actually, they spent very little money on us. But no, it was it was an honor to be on Albert's. Yeah, it was pretty.
Do you recall how that
even
came
though
to be?
yes, even though it wasn't out in Albert's heyday, where they were already kind of in decline, and they were, but yeah, I'm still. I mean, I got to work with some great people, over there that have been with that company. But it was an honor to be on.
Yeah. Were you working with FIFA?
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
FIFA.
Okay.
Yeah. Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she's dynamite.
Yeah, and so many stories. You should interview her.
She's been on the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, yeah, she's endless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was your gateway to Albert's. Yeah?
No,
Do you recall?
but she was, when we got there,
Your
she
advocate.
was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, and she was so welcoming, and even though, we didn't kick ass and sell beating records and anything, but it was just, and we didn't cost them much. It was just a nice relationship. And again, I think that record was actually, we self-funded it.
Right.
And then we presented it and said, what do you think? And they went, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't go, yeah, we'll spend another, 50,000, polishing up, and then, we'll send it over to LA and get what's that, Mutt Lang to, that's his name, isn't it?
Yeah, that was. Anyway. Yeah. Albert's isn't hurting for dough. I mean, it's good that they...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They, I think when there was a few bands at that time that they kind of signed for a bit. They also signed. Fuck. Yeah, they spent nothing on us, but I'll tell you what. They also, before we signed with Albert's, they had already signed a band, friends of ours, called Dallas Crane.
Oh, okay.
And I know that they were doing the old-fashioned, like 12 months in a studio, style of recording. We're working on the hi-hat this week. Sort of recording where they're just fucking, like just spending so much money, studio time money, and just sort of recording as if it's the fucking height of the 80s,
right.
All that sort of, money wasting, time wasting, and like people sort of, I think I'll turn up to the studio a little later, I can tick, 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 there's another, 10 grand, it's okay.
Funny money, yeah.
But I think that was one of the last records I ever heard that, people, that, that was being recorded like that, like sort of like 3 weeks on the drums, sort of, and that just, it's crazy kind of, but yeah, and we walk in with a self-recorded thing and go, what do you reckon? Yeah, sure. we just spent 300 grand on Dallas Crane, and we got no more money.
How much is this Beast album? Well, a couple slabs of beer, I think. Because most of your recordings, in reading your book, it seems to be within a week. Most of the albums were completed, and that's, I guess, credit to you guys for being able to capture that energy fairly. Yeah,
it's even less if I mean the new one. It's just different now. You can like with the new Beast album, Ultimo. We just did 2 days in the studio and got all these basic tracks, and I took away rough mixes and then did a whole lot of post-production on my laptop at home.
Okay.
So I overlaid vocals and, did harmonies with myself, and even did little guitar overdubs and sort of effects and production stuff. Shit that would sort of take, be time and money in an actual studio.
Yeah.
I just kind of fucked around with casually over many, many months, like just using the rough mixes and built on them. So, and then took all my sort of laptop work and then took it back into Roger, and then he sort of lined it all up and went, "Hey, Bristow, look at all."
All right.
So like, all that fiddly and experimenting.
To work at your own pace.
Well, but also all that experimenting, you always want to fuck around with things and test. Say, what if we did this? But in a studio, the fucking clock's always ticking.
Right.
And so if you can do all that fucking around and experimentation and trial and error elsewhere, and then go, and get a decent recording. These days, sort of, it's, you can do that initial recording, fuck around, and then bring it all together very quickly. But then back in the other days, like those albums, it's, we're talking recorded and mixed in 2-3 days. The first album was recorded and mixed in 6 hours.
Oh, Axeman's Jazz.
Axeman's Jazz. That was literally went straight, to master tape.
Well, I think as the music industry just kind of peaked, it went from, because in the 70s, a lot of these albums that we listened to, I think Led Zeppelin's, early catalog was all done in 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, well,
or something. And then it just kind of got big, a little bit bloated, a lot writing on certain things, and that's where you started getting those 9 months.
The Stones and Zeppelin would literally just go to studios during tours.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of tours, and so like they're in different studios, and so they were. I've never done that, but that's probably a good way to do it if you're hot,
right?
If you're young and hot, and
but I mean, just going in and just capturing the moment, capturing the fire, and then maybe there's mixing done later or something like that, but at least you're capturing it. You're not spending, because I guess there's that analysis paralysis that a lot of bands get caught up in, and it's very hard to.
Well, it wasn't long after that that you got. You got Floyd. Probably. I think you got Dark Side of the Moon, and that's becoming sort of. It's I think that's a pretty sort of instinctual and record, and it's actually I think they put it together fairly quickly compared to other albums later on.
Sure.
That was sort of I think that was also a result of being on the road and trialing shit, and then sort of eventually getting. But I think it was I think it's sort of invited a whole lot of shitty kind of records, where people just sort of, let's have a choir and let's have let's have more synthesizer and let's have a bit of an orchestra and which can some of that's great, but actually as far as all that prog goes, I think Floyd's the only prog band I can really tolerate. I could never do Yes.
Yeah. You don't strike me as a Yes man.
I never got Yes. I never really got Emerson, Lake and Palmer, or who else is? Genesis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Again, I don't go because I don't really know them.
Right.
Right. It didn't invite me. It's just
it's not your flavor.
What I have,
right.
What I did here, it wasn't inviting enough for me to. But I do have a taste for Floyd.
Yeah.
I will admit. I think Floyd does. I think there's better stuff there.
Yeah.
They're the best They might even. They're the most popular, but also I think they are actually the best of the prog genre.
Okay. Do you keep up much with Australian music, like some of the more recent bands, Amyl and the Sniffers, or? Hey there, audiophiles. If you're seeking stylish furniture to showcase your stereo and record collection, well, look no further then sidetrackedworkshop.com. Sidetracked Workshop designs extraordinarily elegant record cabinets and consoles that add sophistication and panache to your music hobby. Handcrafted in the good old USA in the vinyl-loving city of Portland, Oregon, Sidetracked Workshop's designs are a music lover's dream. Made with real walnut veneered wood and brass accents, these gorgeous designs add class and taste to the record room and ship fully assembled and ready to enjoy. Just check out the designs for yourself at sidetrackedworkshop.com. Look, you spend thousands of dollars on records. Don't keep them in a crate, and don't risk your records on those feeble wooden pegs from IKEA. Your music deserves the dignity of Sidetracked Workshop. That's sidetrackedworkshop.com. Elegant solutions for the vinyl lifestyle. Oh, and hey, record nerds, don't forget to clean your records with the very best and safest record cleaner, the Groove Washer. Make your records look and sound their very best and store them with confidence using the new Groove Washer Groove Guard record sleeves. You gotta try this out. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your vinyl experience. Ask for the Groove Washer by name at your local record store and accept no substitutes. Or head over to groovewasher.com and use discount code VINYLGUIDE10.
All hail the Groove Washer.
That's groovewasher.com, discount code VINYLGUIDE10. Do you keep up much with Australian music, like some of the more recent bands, Amyl and the Sniffers or Chimers?
Well, you can't get away from those.
No.
Every time I look at every time I look at Facebook or any of those other things, they're
King Gizzard, any of them?
I don't keep up with them, but God bless them. Good, it's good to see. Really, it's interesting to see, like unashamedly Australian content doing well, and that whole generation of bands that are deliberately, that I don't know what but they're deliberately displaying their Australian.
They're not hiding their accents or
well,
anything like that.
They're actually forcing it.
Right.
It's found and it's cool. It's finally become cool because we were all sort of singing in the classic rock and roll voice, and we were it was only occasionally that I would sort of break and truly sound Australian. Traditionally I'd always sort of kind of like the classic sort of English rockers, that are put on American twang on the R's and and say can't instead of can't. That's the big one. I can't. But the new bands all say cunt.
Yeah.
And they say it in
It's an
both
important
ways.
word. Yes. Were you guys ever censored? Any of your projects ever censored?
What do you mean?
Censored, like someone saying, "Oh, you not saying that," or was there ever any sort of non-band decision about editing something that
Non-band,
had been recorded? Okay.
I don't think so. No. No. I've said poo fucking wee as much as I've wanted to, and somehow it's got past the censors.
Fair enough. Now, there's a lot of material that you have that has only been released on CD. I know Cruel Sea, you're starting to pull things out.
There was that weird period in started around 92 where nobody was making vinyl anymore.
Right.
It was all CDs. I think the cassette still existed for a bit.
Yeah.
So it was CD and cassette.
Right.
And then, there was this whole 15 years where no one was really releasing on vinyl.
Except John Foy.
Well, no. I mean, for instance, we were still technically with John when The Honeymoon Is Over came out, and that wasn't vinyl.
Oh, that wasn't vinyl. Okay.
That was 93, and vinyl was already over.
Right.
That wasn't an option. Even.
Right. Okay.
So and it became That it was that way for 15 years, and then people started to go, "Who? What vinyl?" And then then streaming came along, and then CDs went away, and then you're told actually vinyl's back. So but I'm happy about that. I now make record again. See, that's the thing about the CD period. You were making albums kind of around the 50 plus, which is for a vinyl thing. If it's two sides, you're really cramming it in.
Right.
Wouldn't you agree? The kind of the perfect.
It's kind of a limit of about 20 minutes a
It's
side.
about perfect.
Yeah.
20 is kind of the perfect sweet spot. Like probably 18's even better. But if you go up to 25, then you start cramming.
Right.
The tracks and the grooves. Thin. You want fatter grooves as much as possible. So all those records that. We started making longer and longer records, just like 15, like the Honeymoon Is Over is 13 songs. Three-Legged Dog is 15 songs. So so neither of those were released on vinyl, but now actually we're in the process of putting Three-Legged Dog on vinyl.
Okay.
And the solution is it's going to be two discs. So it's like 52 minutes.
Right.
So it's like 15 songs. So you spread. No, actually, that's right. So that's what we're doing. We're spreading over 3 sides, and there's the fourth side is the sort of B-side bonus outtake kind of.
Oh, good. Okay, it's material.
Stuff. Yeah,
okay.
From that period.
Oh, good. It's not an etching or anything like that.
No, it's actually more music.
Good. Okay. those sides, 3 sides, and
is that
an
a
etching.
thing?
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Yeah, someone will do like, let's do a design on it, and that shits me because you go to flip with the record over, and if you're not looking at the record player, like my wife, sometimes you'll put it right on an etching. And, So more music.
Needle hell.
Yeah. So that's encouraging. So Three-Legged Dog is being looked at for vinyl.
Yeah,
probably the whole catalog at some point. Yeah.
I guess we'll. Who knows? I mean, it's again these are in the hands of an actual record company. We signed with Polydor way back, but inevitably they were swallowed by the Pac-Man company Universal, who gobbles up. They're like they were the Live Nation of their day. They gobble up everything, and they kind of. And Universal kind of even they even own EMI now. So I
think there's 3 record companies now. I think there's
but
3,
they swallowed up all the Polys way back, and all these other sort of they got Ireland, and all these labels from all that was the original big sweep of Universal. But so we're what was my point then? I was
the reissue of the different Cruel Sea albums.
Yeah, well, exactly. So it's their initiative. So it's long. It's kind of in their hands,
Right.
I mean,
okay.
They're reissuing the popular ones.
Right. Right.
So far. Let's see what happens when we get to Over Easy, which was the next album down the track, which was kind of as far as sales go,
right,
a bit of a plummet, and it was all over as far as the Cruel Sea being a sort of a pop band by then.
Now, all the reissues that have been done lately,
not a bad. there's not bad tracks on it, but wasn't a hit album.
Right.
So let's see if they reissue that. Is my point.
You've had some of the material reissued, well, Beast of Bourbon anyway, on European labels.
Yeah,
I think Bang Records and Svelte, I think, was another one. Those are official reissues. You guys are involved in those when that happens,
yes,
yeah?
that's all very kind of. It's all very loose and dodgy, It's like it's sort of handshake deals and all that sort of thing.
Sure,
but
but you're aware of them. They're not doing them without your blessing.
Well, initially, but who knows? Like you said, who knows whether they're still sort of.
You make a deal for $1,000, they print up. More on the
who
side.
knows what's really going on? With these. You kind of, with sort of independent records and overseas labels, you sort of, you're, especially the Spanish ones, they're just so, you're just swept up in their enthusiasm.
Right.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, let's put it in. I remember Spencer got involved with Bang first, and I think he released a record with them, and he said, "It's awesome, print up a bunch of records. You take half of them, they take half of them. That's the deal. It's awesome. You get to sell your own stock at your shows, and they get to do whatever they want with. But that was so naive.
It's a bit looser with the rules.
It was very naive, very very trusting, and actually untrue.
Right.
I won't go into the details, but
Fair enough.
It's.
So let me ask you.
But so we're
yeah.
I think there's a lot of sort of also fucking like with the Axeman's Jazz. That was initially on Green Records, which was Stuart Coupe and Roger Grierson's label, and they had a distribution deal with another label, Australian label called Big Time, and Big Time had all these, what do you call them? Subsidiaries, or what's a better label kind of connection? Sort of
Partnerships. Yeah.
But anyway, that record got sort of licensed or issued to all these. There's all these different regions, and it's on all these different labels, and we didn't know anything about it. It was just a Big Time just saying, yeah.
Okay.
And they were just going, yeah, you release it. Right. There's actually about 7 different color schemed versions of the album. Indicating sort of where it was released around
You're on
the
tour,
world.
you see, oh my God, that one's from Poland. Or
There's an orange and white one. There's a blue and red one. There's a green, and it's on these obscure labels all around the world, and they went bust, or just sort of. I think they declared bankruptcy. So like they never accounted. There was no accounting. There was no one to sort of, and little did we know, but that record did kind of well, and did around the world. Little known to us. So we weren't sort of. It wasn't until a few years later, that we became aware that that particular record was a bit of a sort of kind of an underground hit in Germany and in parts of Europe, and it even got to the States, but no actual. We never made a cent off the only money we made off that initial pressings, all those pressings of the record, was the money we got paid to be at the recording session. We got $100 each.
Okay.
Yeah. And Roger paid us $100 each to be there.
Do you guys control that now? Do you control Access Jazz?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
But again, I've got to. Actually, who did we? it's one of those situations. Who do we license that to last?
Right.
So it's certainly whoever it was. It's expired, and it's probably up for grabs for another repackaging or reissuing.
Is there any album of your work? I mean, Be Suburban, Cruel Sea, Thug, any of that you don't immediately control? Something you would like to?
Oh well, yeah.
Look,
there's not a lot of money in it these days, so it's more about, like, for instance, the Universal situation. You know, they own all the Cruel Sea albums, and they own a couple of significant Beasts Suburban. You know, they own the Low Road. The Low Road's probably the the holy grail of the unachieved, we don't control. But I believe old crafty old John Foy he's made some fresh relationships with Universal.
okay.
And somehow he got Universal, because they own all that Red Eye stuff,
Right.
all those other bands too, you know, that were on Red Eye, and somehow he's got Universal to repackage the Clouds' entire catalogue and release it on vinyl in a sort of a box set with a big booklet, you know, like packaging for fucking, you know, like over the top. Like, oh my God, I think it might even be 3D or something, you know, sort of packaging. He's pulled this ridiculous, you know, they own it, but and it's just sort of languished, but he's somehow managed to sort of.
John doesn't do things halfway. He's
managed them to I mean, no disrespect to the Clouds, but they're not like sort of the hippest fucking you know, thing, you know, and that's going to sell like hotcakes, you know. But it's pretty canny of him to. I've got them to do this beautiful, you know, repackaging of their entire catalogue on vinyl. So it's kind of, if they're willing to do things like that, sure. Right. I mean, as I say, there's not a lot of money in it. There's not a lot of money at stake these days with records. It's more about. I mean, I like to make albums. I love the physicality of it. And I make albums. My recordings these days are, you know, like 40 minutes long. When we reach the 40-minute mark, oh shit, okay. Okay. Yeah, like it's got to be, you know, sort of, I think in vinyl terms, I think of A-side and B-side, you know.
Yeah,
and,
Act 1, Act 2 kind of almost.
And, you know, 5 tracks or short, I think in 20 minutes a side.
Right.
So, you know, whether that's 2 discs or one single disc, but yeah, I think in a vinyl sense now. So I do think it's important. But as far as control goes, if an entity like Universal is prepared to, and I think John is working on them to re-release the Low Road, which they control. So if they make that available, I mean, I'm not going to make a shitload of money out of it, but I think it's pleasing that.
Nice to have it out, right?
Yeah, people, you know, a few people will appreciate that, and yeah, just having things as a vinyl guy, you know, just whether it's available or not is a significant thing.
Well, 100%. So before we totally wrap up, I wanted to ask you about Johnny Cash. Well, Tex, thank you so much for spending time with us. We won't get into the legendary Stardust Cowboy, but
yes, we should. Come on.
So he used to. I used to live in San Jose. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. He doesn't turn corners.
That's what I. Well, Stuart Coop told me that because, Keith Glass told him that. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's I did that. That was a story that got told to me by Stuart Coop from Philip Glass when he toured. Yeah, he doesn't turn, or he doesn't turn left.
I worked at a music shop.
You can't turn left.
I worked at a music shop, and he lived on the same street, but all the way down on the other side of West San Carlos, and he would just walk straight up and down. He wouldn't deviate. It's the most bizarre thing. He's still around.
Really?
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah. He doesn't have a phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for the listeners' pleasure, the legendary Stardust Cowboy, Norman. What's his last name?
Oh, I'd screw it up.
Anyway, his first
We call
name.
him Ledge.
Yeah,
Ledge.
of course we do. He's known to be responsible for the world's worst record. That's that's what they claim. Paralyzed.
He had several contenders in that top 10 list, though.
But Paralyzed was generally known as, and proudly known as the world's worst record. And it's just wild, unintelligible, yelling, drum solo, bugle solo,
Whatever he had around him.
But anyway, in 1985, Keith Glass, a promoter in Melbourne, decided to bring him to Australia, but he only brought his manager and the Ledge. So he needed 2 pickup bands. There was 1 gig in Melbourne and 1 gig in Sydney. And I was fortunate enough to be in part of the band that was formed to back Ledge in Sydney. We played at the Graphic Arts Club. We were already very, aware of him. And he had just, we'd known about Paralyzed forever, but he had just released a new album. There was an album that got released in early '80s, and it was a little more conventional, but it was still very
Ledge.
It was.
Is that the one with I hate CDs on it?
I'm not
I hate
sure.
CDs. My boots are full of power. Every week I march down to Tower and stomp the daylights out of every CD.
No, I think that might have been on the next release. I think this was before 85. Is that a little before CDs, or CDs exist then?
They were coming out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, but anyway, we had one rehearsal, and one show, and somebody actually videoed it, and I recently saw it. James Baker got given a few burns of that gig.
Oh wow!
And fuck, it's funny.
Was Baker on that as well?
Yeah, James Baker on drums.
You on bass?
I'm on bass.
Right.
Spencer Jones on guitar, and Lachlan McLeod.
Okay.
Who was in a lot of bands that I was in, Salamander Jim, and Thug, and a few other things.
Right.
Back in the 80s. But I had forgotten that he progressively got naked, or actually he ended up in his underpants by the end of the gig. I'd forgotten that he sort of slowly does a strip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or he actually does it over the
He
client.
kept the kerchief on, though, right?
Hey?
He kept the kerchief on? Yeah.
and his boots.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
his
Yeah.
Yeah, that was also funny. Him trying to get his flared trousers over it, and then getting caught, and then oh, that's right, and then he'd wave it around his head like a lasso. Each bit of his clothing, he'd do that with.
Yeah.
But then he was doing it with his pants, and I'd forgotten all this until I watched the video recently, and then somebody out from the audience reached up and grabbed it, and then there was this tug of war. There was this absolute, oh my God, tug of war of the ledge, in a tug of war with this guy who had his pants, and then I think his manager came out of nowhere and it was fucking boom, get the fucking shit got real. And then but yeah, it was fucking hilarious. And
he's such a lovely guy. He's a maniac on stage, but when you talk to him regularly, it was a gentleman.
Yeah, he was actually asleep just before we went on stage. He was sitting in a chair, just asleep. I'm not sure whether it was.
I think he's got a bit of narcolepsy. I think
there you go.
I think he's yeah.
I'm not sure whether it was jet lag but yeah, I remember him distinctly being asleep. Like the crowd's ready to go. There's 1,000 people out there. He's sitting in his chair, and his manager had to, Norman, it's time to play. Oh, all right, woohoo! And off we went. Actually, no, that's right. We went out first and started. It was his idea that we do an instrumental. The show started with an instrumental of Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Right. Okay.
And then he comes out halfway, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing he did. He frisbeed paper plates into the audience. He had a stack of paper.
He'd draw on them, right?
Yeah, he'd draw a little. I had one for years. That was a collectible item.
Okay.
And it's a a barbecue, paper barbecue plate, with a little very simple.
You got faces and stuff on it.
I think it was mine was a cactus sort of desert scene with a flying saucer.
Yeah,
which was pretty awesome. Very simple but very ledge. You
got to find that plate. All right, man. I'm gonna need to let you go. Tex, thank you so much, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Good. There we go. Absolutely lovely guy, Mr. Tex Perkins. And man, I'm glad they haven't invented time machines. I'd be absolutely scared to go back and party with that guy decades ago. But man, he has held it all together, and he's doing this victory lap now with The Cruel Sea. Fantastic new album from The Beasts, Ultimo, and great things in the windshield ahead for Mr. Tex Perkins. So again, thank you so much, mate, and we'll see you on that upcoming theater tour. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who's sharing these episodes on social media, putting them on Reddit, Facebook groups, flicking them to their friends, sharing them on social media. That is hugely appreciated. And those of you leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, well, you are gods among men in my book. And we'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, get out there and buy some records, people. Cheers.